The Stalker's Curse, Part 1. The chill of the late October wind sent shivers down my spine. Halloween was upon us, and this year it felt different. There was an uneasy aura in the air, a sense of foreboding that clung to me like a spectral shroud. It began with a note, slipped under my door in the dead of night. The handwriting was jagged, frantic, each word a chilling testament to a disturbed mind. "Zoe," it began, "I've been watching you. For years, I've been your shadow, your silent admirer. This Halloween, our paths will finally converge." My heart hammered in my chest, a discordant rhythm that echoed the terror coursing through my veins. I reported the incident to the police, my voice shaking as I relayed the stalker's chilling message. But their response was even more unsettling than the note itself. "Zoe," the detective said, his brow furrowed in concern. "The person you're describing, he died 5 years ago, on Halloween night." The room seemed to spin, the walls closing in on me. Dead? How could that be? The note was fresh, the ink barely dry. I could practically feel the stalker's presence lurking in the shadows, watching my every move. As the days passed, the sense of dread intensified. Strange occurrences plagued me, a whisper in the wind that carried my name, a fleeting shadow that danced at the edge of my vision, a cold touch that brushed against my skin when no one was near. I delved into the stalker's past, desperate for answers. His name was Alex, a reclusive artist who lived alone in a dilapidated house on the outskirts of town. He was known for his macabre paintings, his dark obsession with death and the afterlife. Locals whispered that he dabbled in the occult, that he performed rituals to commune with the spirits of the dead. On Halloween night 5 years ago, Alex's house was consumed by a mysterious fire. His charred remains were found amidst the ashes, a grim testament to his tragic end. But now it seemed he was back, and he was coming for me. Halloween night arrived, casting an eerie pall over the town. I barricaded myself in my apartment, every creak and groan of the old building amplifying my anxiety. I tried to distract myself, to convince myself it was all in my head, but the fear was a relentless beast, gnawing at my sanity. As the clock struck midnight, a blood-curdling scream pierced the silence. It came from the apartment next door, the home of my elderly neighbor, Mrs. Henderson. I fumbled for my phone, my hands shaking as I dialed 911. When the police arrived, they found Mrs. Henderson's lifeless body sprawled on the floor, her eyes wide with terror, her throat slashed. A single blood-red rose lay beside her, a chilling symbol of the stalker's twisted love. I was consumed by guilt and horror. Had I been the intended target? Had Mrs. Henderson paid the ultimate price for my stalker's obsession? The police questioned me, their faces grim, their words laced with suspicion. I was a suspect, a potential accomplice in this gruesome murder. Desperate to clear my name and put an end to this nightmare, I decided to confront the stalker myself. I ventured into the darkness, armed with nothing but a flashlight and a desperate hope. Alex's old house loomed before me, a skeletal silhouette against the moonlit sky. The front door creaked open, inviting me into the abyss. The air inside was thick with the stench of decay, the walls adorned with Alex's macabre paintings. Each brushstroke seemed to pulse with an unholy energy, a testament to the darkness that had consumed him. As I ventured deeper into the house, I stumbled upon a hidden room, its entrance concealed behind a bookshelf. Inside, I found a collection of objects that chilled me to the bone. A lock of my hair, a photograph of me sleeping, a diary filled with Alex's twisted fantasies. Suddenly, the room plunged into darkness. I heard a whisper, a raspy voice that slithered through the air like a venomous serpent. "Zoe," it hissed, "you can't escape me. I'm a part of you now, forever entwined in your soul." I spun around, my flashlight beam dancing frantically in the darkness. A figure emerged from the shadows, its form flickering like a flame on the verge of extinction. It was Alex, his face a grotesque mask of charred flesh and hollow sockets. "Join me, Zoe," he beckoned, his voice a chilling echo from beyond the grave. "Together we can transcend death, embrace the eternal darkness." I stumbled backward, my heart pounding in my chest. The room seemed to warp and twist, the paintings on the walls coming to life, their subjects writhing in agony. I was trapped, ensnared in the stalker's curse. Panic surged through me, a primal instinct to flee. I turned and ran, my feet pounding against the creaking floorboards. But the house seemed to shift and change around me, the hallways stretching into endless corridors, the doors slamming shut in my face. I was lost, disoriented, my flashlight beam casting eerie shadows that danced and contorted like malevolent spirits. The air grew colder, the stench of decay intensifying with each step. I could hear Alex's raspy laughter echoing through the house, a chilling symphony of madness. I stumbled into a room filled with mirrors, their surfaces reflecting my terrified face 1,000 times over. I saw myself aging, my skin wrinkling, my hair turning gray, my eyes filled with the despair of a life unlived. A cold hand gripped my shoulder, its touch sending a shiver down my spine. I turned to see Alex standing behind me, his skeletal fingers digging into my flesh. His eyes, once filled with life, were now empty sockets, burning with an otherworldly fire. "You can't escape your fate, Zoe," he whispered, his voice a chilling caress against my ear. "You belong to me, in this life and the next." I struggled to break free, but his grip was unyielding. He pulled me closer, his face inches from mine. I could feel his icy breath on my skin, the stench of death clinging to him like a shroud. "I've waited so long for this moment," he rasped, his lips curling into a grotesque smile. "Now we can be together forever." He leaned in, his lips brushing against mine. A wave of revulsion washed over me, a visceral horror that threatened to consume me. I closed my eyes, bracing myself for the inevitable. But then, a surge of adrenaline coursed through my veins. I opened my eyes, a newfound determination burning within me. I wouldn't let him win. I wouldn't let him take me. With a burst of strength, I pushed him away, breaking free from his grasp. I turned and ran, my lungs burning, my legs aching. I could hear him behind me, his raspy voice cursing my defiance. I burst through a door, stumbling into a room bathed in an eerie green light. In the center of the room stood a pentagram, its lines etched in blood. Candles flickered at each point, their flames casting dancing shadows on the walls. Alex emerged from the darkness, his form shimmering in the unnatural light. He raised his arms, chanting in a language I didn't understand. The air crackled with energy, the room pulsating with an otherworldly power. I knew I had to stop him, to break the curse that bound me to him. I lunged forward, grabbing a candle from the pentagram. The flames licked at my fingers, but I didn't flinch. With a defiant cry, I hurled the candle at Alex, the flames engulfing him in a fiery embrace. He screamed, his voice a tortured wail that echoed through the house. The pentagram flickered, its power waning. I watched as Alex's form disintegrated, the flames consuming him until there was nothing left but ashes. The room fell silent, the eerie green light fading into darkness. I stood there, panting, my heart still pounding in my chest. Had I finally defeated him? Had I broken the curse? Or was this just the beginning? The house creaked and groaned around me, as if mourning the loss of its master. I stumbled out of the room, my senses reeling. The hallways were now dimly lit by flickering candles, their flames casting long, dancing shadows that seemed to whisper secrets in the darkness. I made my way back to the hidden room, the air thick with the scent of burnt flesh and sulfur. The pentagram was gone, replaced by a gaping hole in the floor. I peered into the abyss, my flashlight beam illuminating a seemingly endless staircase that spiraled into the depths. A cold wind rushed up from the darkness, carrying with it the faint echo of Alex's laughter. It was a taunting reminder that even in death he was still with me. The curse was not broken. It had merely transformed. I knew I had to descend into the darkness, to confront whatever awaited me at the bottom of the stairs. With a deep breath, I stepped onto the first step, my heart pounding in my chest. The descent was long and arduous, the air growing colder and more oppressive with each step. The walls were lined with grotesque murals depicting scenes of torture and despair. I could hear whispers in the darkness, disembodied voices that murmured my name, their words laced with malice. Finally, I reached the bottom of the stairs. I found myself in a cavernous chamber, its walls dripping with moisture, its floor covered in a thick layer of grime. In the center of the chamber stood a stone altar, its surface stained with blood. And there, chained to the altar, was a figure shrouded in darkness. As I approached, the figure turned its head, revealing a face I knew all too well. It was me. My doppelganger stared back at me, its eyes filled with a malevolent glee. It was a twisted reflection of myself, a mockery of my existence. "Welcome, Zoe," my doppelganger hissed, its voice a chilling imitation of my own. "You've finally found me. Now we can be together forever." I stumbled backward, my mind reeling. What was this? Was this the true nature of the curse? Had Alex somehow trapped a part of my soul in this hellish realm? My doppelganger laughed, its voice echoing through the chamber. "You can't escape me, Zoe. I'm a part of you now, your shadow self, your dark twin." It strained against its chains, its eyes burning with an insatiable hunger. "Soon, I'll be free, and then we'll become one. We'll merge, and you'll finally understand the true meaning of darkness." I knew I had to stop it, to destroy this twisted reflection of myself before it was too late. But how? I was alone, unarmed, facing a creature that was both me and not me. Desperation clawed at my mind, fueling a surge of adrenaline. I lunged forward, grabbing a rusty chain that hung from the ceiling. With a guttural cry, I swung the chain at my doppelganger, the metal biting into its flesh. It screamed, its voice a chorus of pain and rage. It struggled against its chains, its eyes blazing with fury, but I wouldn't relent. I continued to strike, each blow fueled by a primal need to survive. Finally, the chain snapped, and my doppelganger fell to the ground, its form writhing in agony. I watched as it dissolved into a pool of black ooze, its screams fading into silence. The chamber grew still, the only sound the steady drip of water from the ceiling. I stood there panting, my body trembling with exhaustion. Had I finally defeated the curse? Or was this just another illusion, another trick of the darkness? A sense of unease lingered, a nagging feeling that something was amiss. The silence was too profound, the darkness too encompassing. I turned to leave, my footsteps echoing through the cavernous chamber. But as I reached the staircase, a cold hand gripped my ankle, its touch sending a jolt of terror through my body. I looked down to see a skeletal hand emerging from the pool of black ooze, its fingers clawing at my flesh. I kicked and struggled, but the grip was relentless. The ooze began to rise, forming a grotesque parody of my doppelganger, its face a contorted mask of pain and rage. "You can't destroy me, Zoe," it hissed, its voice a guttural rasp. "I'm a part of you, your deepest fears, your darkest desires. I'll always be with you, lurking in the shadows, waiting for my chance to emerge." I screamed, my voice echoing through the chamber. I kicked and thrashed, but the creature's grip only tightened. It pulled me closer, its putrid breath washing over me. Suddenly, a blinding light filled the chamber. I shielded my eyes, blinking against the sudden brightness. When I looked again, the creature was gone, the pool of ooze evaporating into nothingness. Standing before me was a figure bathed in golden light, its form radiating warmth and compassion. It was Alex, but not the monstrous apparition I had encountered before. This Alex was whole, his face unmarred, his eyes filled with a gentle sadness. "Zoe," he said, his voice soft and soothing. "I'm so sorry for what I've put you through. The curse, it twisted me, consumed me. But now I'm free, and I want to help you break free too." I stared at him, my mind struggling to comprehend. Was this another trick? Or was this the real Alex, the man he had been before the curse took hold? "The curse," he continued, "it feeds on fear, on darkness. It binds you to your doppelganger, to the shadow self that lurks within you. But there's a way to break free. You have to confront your fears, embrace your darkness, and accept it as a part of you." He reached out, his hand glowing with a gentle light. "Let me help you, Zoe. Let me guide you through the darkness." I hesitated, my instincts screaming at me to run, but there was something in Alex's eyes, a sincerity that I couldn't ignore. I took his hand, feeling a surge of warmth flow through me. Together we ascended the staircase, the darkness receding with each step. As we reached the top, the hidden room was bathed in a soft, golden light. The paintings on the walls were now serene, their subjects smiling, their eyes filled with peace. Alex turned to me, his face etched with a bittersweet smile. "It's time for me to go, Zoe, but remember, you're not alone. You have the strength to overcome any darkness. Embrace your shadow self, and you'll find true freedom." With that, he faded away, the golden light dissolving into nothingness. I stood there alone once more, but this time I felt a sense of peace. The curse was broken. I was free, or so I thought. Days turned into weeks, and the memory of that Halloween night began to fade like a distant nightmare. I returned to my normal life, but something had shifted within me. I was no longer afraid of the darkness. I had faced my shadow self, my deepest fears, and emerged stronger. I even revisited Alex's old house, now a silent monument to a troubled soul. The paintings on the walls seemed to whisper stories of redemption and hope. I found myself drawn to his art, appreciating the beauty that lay beneath the macabre surface. One day, as I wandered through the house, I stumbled upon a hidden canvas, tucked away in a dusty corner. It was a portrait of me, my eyes filled with a newfound strength, my lips curved into a gentle smile. Beneath the portrait was a single word: free. In that moment, I understood. Alex's love for me, though twisted and obsessive, had ultimately led to my liberation. He had forced me to confront my darkness, to embrace my shadow self, and in doing so, he had set me free. I left the house, the weight of the past lifted from my shoulders. The sun was shining, the birds were singing, and the world seemed brighter than ever before. I had faced the Stalker's curse and emerged victorious. Years later, I became an art therapist, using my own experiences to help others confront their inner demons. I shared my story, hoping to inspire others to find strength in their darkness. And as I looked back on that Halloween night, I realized that the true curse wasn't the Stalker's obsession, but the fear that had held me captive. By embracing my shadow self, I had not only broken free from Alex's grasp, but also from the limitations I had imposed upon myself. I was no longer Zoe, the victim. I was Zoe, the survivor. I was Zoe, the artist of my own life, painting a future filled with light and hope.